Let's do this. Good morning. Give it all you got. All right. It says it's going live. It's setting up the meeting for Facebook. Give it all you got. Okay. How are you this morning? How are you? How are you? Let's see. Are we there yet? Always a pleasure this morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I think we are officially live this morning. Welcome. Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday.
Seems like a month of Sunday since I talked to you last.
That is a straight up inside joke, right?
All day long. Cheers
Okay.
to you this morning. I hope you got your coffee or your tea ready for this morning's chat.
I do. I've already had my coffee. I actually used it as part of my morning walk.
Okay.
So I walked to Wawa and got my coffee because I realized I was out at home. So I did a double duty.
Did
got
you?
My walk on, my sweat on, walked to Wawa, got some coffee. And you know what tripped me out about it? I was like, man, I forgot the mask because I can't walk with the mask. I barely can breathe with the mask.
Yeah.
I didn't have it with me. But when I went to Wawa, before you used to have to, do the social distancing still, and they would prepare the coffee. So this morning, surprisingly, now you're back to preparing your own coffee.
Coffee back at, oh, really? Well,
at Wawa. Yeah. I was like, I don't even know how I feel about it. I already felt like it was a germ trap anyway, with everybody touching the milk and this and that.
Yeah, kind of like going to buffet bars and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's like a coffee type buffet, and they had it back out this morning where you could, make your own coffee, but still try to, keep 6 feet. So I found that interesting. I see that people are starting to open up. That's what I get from that.
Very good. Yeah, well, you're right, but you got to wear the mask. Now, when I say I don't do that, I don't wear when I'm out when I'm not around people. If I'm out walking, I cannot walk in a mask.
But no, I didn't have the mask on, and I noticed a lot of people didn't have a mask on. I don't have an excuse other than the fact that I can't breathe, and it's probably the walk to the Wawa from the house is about a mile. So
okay.
It's part of my exercise. That's all.
Very good, very good. Well, good morning to you. I'm glad you got yours in. I'm ready after the call. I'm ready to go get mine. I'll probably wake Olivia. Actually, Olivia did a sleepover last night, and they apparently stayed up all night, unbeknownst to the mom, where she was playing games and she's with her cousins. And anyway, she called at about 6 o'clock this morning wanting to come home. So
negative.
No, but Uncle Alan went and got her. She was like,
oh, bless his heart. Bless his heart.
Good uncle.
Uncle Alan to the rescue.
Uncle Alan to the rescue. Well, the 5 o'clock, it still happens. Whether you get up or not, your body's going to wake up. So we're up and awake. So it was like, he's like, I'll go get her. Fortunately, it's just in the next community. So
cool.
Anyway, so we were good.
So what we got on deck this Saturday? If anybody has any questions, please drop them in the comments.
Absolutely. Do we have any folks on board? Good morning to you. Good. I'm
not sure. I guess it's your feed.
I think I see 5. So yeah, this morning, I actually should have put it in our topic, but this morning we're going to talk about, which we kind of alluded to it last week, how to choose or pick a realtor and or lender. But actually not and your lender in this market, or in any market, quite honestly. I guess I'm just so accustomed to saying in this market, but when you're out searching for a lender and a realtor, when you're, thinking about buying or selling, of course, we get calls all the time. I know with us on our side, on the real estate side, we get people who start, really thinking about buying, usually anywhere from 3 to 6 months and sometimes a year more out. And they want to start preparing, what needs to happen and what should they do going forward. So one of the first things I like to say is, have you talked to a lender? And with that said, I'm going to throw the ball to you and ask, what are some good questions or suggestions for a borrower who is considering purchasing?
Well, I think you kind of already alluded to it first is to seek a referral, right? So to seek a referral from a trusted agent or
Mhm,
realtor or family member, someone that has already had an experience
right.
with the person, by referral only is one of the ways that I really prefer to try to do business. So I would say first seek a referral.
Mhm,
That's one thing. However, if you're not talking with the lender or you can't get a referral from a friend or, a family member, then I would say to actually at that point, some questions to ask of a lender if you're just calling around and kind of like, vetting or interviewing.
mhm,
um, one of my first questions would be is how much experience do you have?
very
And that's not a diss to a newbie or anyone like that, but how long have you been in the business?
right.
Because when you're doing a loan, you basically need someone that is presenting your case to an underwriter or a person that doesn't know you for thousands of dollars.
Right.
So I do feel like experience is necessary. It doesn't have to be years and years of experience, but that experience, number one. Number two, depending on your situation, what type of programs or financing do you offer? That might help me if I'm a first time buyer seeking down payment assistance. Does your company offer that? If I am a doctor and need a specific type of loan, does your company offer that? So what type of programs that they have that might suit your actual need? Most people lead with the first question, which is actually the last question. In my opinion, they lead with the first question, which is like right away, it's like, what is your rate?
What are your
And posted something about there's so many factors that determine the interest rate that leading with that question is definitely not going to get you to the best place, right? Because somebody can answer what their rate is, but that's not your rate,
right?
right? It can have published rates, but that doesn't mean it's going to be your rate. Your rate is going to depend on the specific scenario and more than likely on that specific day. So I think the public has been coached to lead with what are your rates versus trying to figure out some other questions such as, a referral, experience, loan types. What are your practices as far as communication? When are you available? Right? Because we think since we have a banking relationship with a credit union or a bank, that this is also the best place to get a mortgage. Well, a bank closes at 5 p.m. So now real estate happens at all times of day. During the weekend, are you going to be able to be accessible?
Mhm,
What is your communication policy? Like when it's too late to actually talk? I felt like we've actually won deals for clients in multiple offer situations because of accessibility. So, those are I guess those are four things to actually ask when trying to vet a lender. And then I would say the last one is probably going to be um, communication style, right?
mhm, mhm,
Type, and I think some of that is, over time, like when you talk to somebody, how did you feel after you got off the phone with them? Did you feel
right.
comfortable? Did you feel something in your spirit, right? Like what's in your gut? Do you feel like they're going to be a good fit?
That's a
Um,
good point.
Although it seems like it's transactional, this really is a relational business, far as relationship and helping someone purchase one of their biggest investments ever in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's a
Mhm.
great point. And going back to one, there's always choosing a local lender versus a credit union or one of these online resource sources, because, and it's not necessarily to throw any kind of shade or to put them down and say they're not good, lending institutions, but it is something to be said for working with someone who is local, who is knowledgeable, who is familiar with the area, and has the availability. And that is key, especially, for example, I'm out showing houses this evening at 5:30 on a Saturday, a Memorial Day weekend. um,
Okay.
what lender am I going to call over at one of these credit unions or banks? And more often than not, I find that even during the week, you can't just pick up the phone and call them. I mean, you can call and leave a message, but you may not get a call back until the end of the day, or you have to email, and the response again is delayed. And there are some local, not local, but there are some big lending institutions that specialize in a variety of other things, and that goes back to even with the banks, some of our, banks where, they have a huge array of services that they provide, but working with a local lender, in my opinion, and please interrupt me, this is your specialty. This is what you do every day, all day. You know what I mean? Even on the weekends.
Exactly.
How often have we called you after hours or on a weekend? And I know you got two small boys, school age kids, and I've called you and you've been on the baseball field or somewhere, or football field, and have answered questions and responded to not just me, but the borrower. So there is something to be said for working with a local lender, the availability. And like you said, talk to them, go with your gut, look at their references. How long have they been doing this, and if they're references. So,
right. I guess that's something to throw in, actually, far as reviews, but in talking about this, I mean, let's talk about if I were trying to interview an agent, right? So there's a huge debate about who you pick first, right? Do you pick the lender or the realtor first? So we won't get into that debate. But I will say, what are some of the things that you would advise people to look for when choosing their realtor to work with them on the biggest purchase in their life?
So the first thing he said, we won't get into the debate about, who to choose, whether the lender or the realtor. If you come to me first and you haven't talked to a lender, the first thing I'm going to do is give you a name. And of course, you're certainly someone that I refer, because I know your reputation. I know you get the job done. And let's face it, getting the references. So for a realtor, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, look at the experience. How familiar is the realtor with the area, the location that you're looking to purchase in? How knowledgeable are they? Do they have referrals? And if so, get the referrals and check them. I have a list of referrals, so I'm happy, and I do provide that on the onset. Having that initial consultation, is it just someone that just wants to hurry up, meet with you and take you out? Or are they going to sit down and counsel you? Especially if you're a first-time home buyer, and even if you're not, have a conversation up front. Are they willing to do that? I'm going to even recommend talk to at least 3 different people. If you've been, sorry guys, I've got my office guys with me today. So please, Ringo.
So Ringo didn't like that conversation to talk to 3 different people.
What you got? And the reality is, you absolutely check them out. And like you said earlier, I'm going to close.
Okay.
Go with your gut. Go with the gut. See, if you guys connect, if you're in rapport, because at the end of the day, do I trust this person? Are they knowledgeable? Do they care about me, or are they more concerned with the transaction? And that to me is number one. Someone that's coming from a position of confrontation, someone who that has my best interest, not their own. And so often, let's face it, realtors and lenders, we all have a bad rap. They all, they look at us and that's something that needs to really be.
Hey, speak for yourself. Realtors, y'all on your own. Negative reputation industry, unfortunately. No,
it really is. And it's sad.
Unfortunately, it is. Unfortunately, it is. So I do think I agree that, does this person have your specific needs in mind first before worrying about a commission or a check? So people have felt like in the past that they were just treated like a commission check versus people actually trying to help them, achieve their goals.
Exactly. So that to me is huge. Again, references, check the references, look them up, Google them. What are the reviews about them, and how do they handle negative feedback? How do they deal with those type of things? You are hiring a professional. And I'm not going to just say the new agent is not, you don't necessarily want to go with a new agent or say, hey, I've got almost 20 years of experience. I've been doing this, I want to say 18 years now.
But at some point we were new as well.
We all were, but go with, and I speak to Jeremy, who has about 6 years of experience. And of course, he's been an apprentice under me for all the years. Even before he became a realtor, he was working in real estate. But it's important. And again, look at their reviews, look at what others have said, if they have them, check out their references. How knowledgeable and are they informed? Do they know the community? Are they concerned about me? And those are some of the basics that I would suggest to anyone, that's whether it's a realtor or a lender. What is the motive behind that person? Do they really care about my needs versus you know, like you said, getting a commission check. So to me, that's very important. And as a realtor, you know, again, what is a person going to do? What are you going to do for me if I'm working with a seller and you know, we interact with lenders on the other end? You know, what kind of relationship? What do you do to protect my interest in every scenario, whether it's a buyer or this? Now, when it's on the buyer side, you know, you're totally in the hands of your lender when it comes to preparing the financing, but how closely you know, how well do you all work together? And that partnership between lender and realtor is very important.
I would have
on the
to
back.
100% agree. And I want to go back to something that you chimed in on, which was about dealing with negative feedback. Because the reality is we live in the real world. And I think reviews are awesome, you know, to at least give someone, you know, an opportunity to see what kind of experience they should look to have with the person that they're thinking about dealing with. But we also know that things don't always go 100% correct. I mean, there are so many, like, what is it, 66 points of turbulence that can happen in the actual real estate transaction. So it's bound to have something that's going to happen that could possibly be negative throughout the transaction. And how is that actually going to be handled? First, I mean, you're dealing with human beings, but we're also dealing with real estate. There's such an emotional tie. And then, like I said, I want to say it's 66 points of turbulence. I think that is the actual number of things that could go wrong. How is that actually going to be handled? Because it's all peaches and cream when everything's going good. But what happens when things get tight or, you know, something doesn't right way? Are we able to pivot and still get the deal, you know, over the line? I actually have someone that closed on Friday yesterday, and I got the clear to close for one that's closing on Tuesday, on Thursday as well. And both those transactions, we ran into a little speed bump. And if you're dealing with some call center person in wherever that's not really trying to be held accountable or does not have the skills to, you know, repackage the deal to get it to the finish line, then that could be a situation. Because again, your loan officer is representing you to an underwriter that doesn't know you and has to package that deal to say whether this is going to be too risky for us or is this something that we should do. So my goal is to figure out how to get you approved. The underwriter goes, I'm not saying they're trying to deny loans purposely, but their goal is to mitigate risk for the lender, right? So to mitigate risk for the lender. So with that in mind, you need someone that's going to represent you as the least risky as possible. Absolutely. And that you meet the guidelines to get that deal done. So both those loans are, one's clear to close, the other one closed on Friday. And we had the detour, and it was that wasn't the time to stop answering the phone, stop answering email. That was the time to continuously communicate. So that's another big telltale factor, I think, is communication when dealing with the lender.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important, because what you guys do, like you said, is you do all the front end stuff. You try to make sure everything is out of the way before you submit it to the lender. Now, with that, I think we touched on this in some of our previous videos, is it is so important that, especially with borrowers, not especially, but when borrowers are considering purchasing, that they do start working with you on the front end before they even start shopping. Because the reality is, and especially we've been beating this, you know, about the inventory. When you're ready to go out, you need to make sure that all your ducks are in a row, because if not, and you see that house, it may not be there when once you go to find that lender and start the process, because there's many pieces to it. And as I mentioned, in representing a seller, a good selling agent is going to vet the borrower by checking with that lender to see, how strong are you? Have you reviewed their documents? Have you verified, you know, income, employment? You know, what were their findings? You know, they're going to dig deep. A good real listing agent, yours truly, is going to dig deep and find out. And if you haven't even started the process, or they've just looked at you online and never really kind of drilled down on any of that, then you might not be selected. So especially in this time that we're in, where take COVID away, but when you're in a market where there's no inventory, you need to know that your financing, and everything is in order. Because in a climate where there are multiple offers, what is going to, sometimes it has nothing to do with price. It has to do with terms and how strong the borrower is. We listed a property last week, and day 2 we had multiple offers. And
Wow.
and just let me tell you, there was now this is key here. There was an offer that came through from a lender that I had done 2 deals with in the past. Well, from a buyer who was working with a lender that I had done 2 deals with in the past. We won't name names, but I think you know who when you hear this. I was cautious, and that was a strong offer. And I had to have the conversation with my seller. Now, I don't make the decision, but I present it to them. And it's important if you work with a lender, and those 2 deals that I talked about were horrible. They were delayed. There were issues. The lender was non-responsive. It was one thing after another. And that was a key factor in my seller not selecting them, because they would have been number 1 choice. Just simply, and what was also important is they had not gone really into reviewing and taking into consideration the borrower's position on the lending side. And when I called to vet the to call the lender, and I called several times throughout the day, no response.
No response.
Even to this day.
So experience. It goes back to the experience you had, even though, I mean, it's almost like it was fool's gold, right? It really wasn't worth the piece of paper it was written on, even though it was deemed the strongest offer as far as the terms were concerned.
The terms and the numbers, the price. But at the end of the day, they lost out simply because they did not.
Who you're working with makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Hey, Tosh, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Tosh. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. But I think that's the inside stuff right there. Like, what has the experience been for the listing agent in accepting an actual offer? So
it is important. A good agent is going to do her homework, because again, whether it's a buyer or a seller, that's our job, is to protect the interest of the person we represent. It doesn't matter what side they're on. That is the ultimate goal, is to protect their interests. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Not us, but what do you want to achieve? So our goal is to work together with the lender if you're a buyer, and as a listing agent or a seller's agent, we want to make sure that we're doing, our job for you to protect your interests. Because God knows we don't want to, and I know you know this too, as on the lender, you don't want to get 3/4 of the way through the transaction only to have something fall apart. Now, honestly, there are some unforeseen things. God forbid, somebody can lose their job, or there could be a health issue, some unforeseen thing. But removing that, you want to make sure everything is in order. And again, the communication with both sides, whether you work your lender or your realtor, you got to make sure that they are going to communicate with you, and also based on your terms, what is your preferred method of communication? So those things are key, making sure, again, it all goes back to your interest and how knowledgeable. The experience does matter. It does help, certainly. And, are they concerned about my interest versus just getting a transaction completed?
Exactly.
So
the lifetime value of the relationship means a big deal. I like that you kicked in on method of communication. I know for me, I have a preferred method of communication, and I won't necessarily say it right now. I will say it. I mean, it doesn't, matter one way or the other. I prefer things in email followed up with the call, or vice versa. A call followed up with the email, because I want to be able to, keep our word, right? So sometimes hearing different things from a loan perspective, they can be complicated. Sometimes I'll email first and then say, hey, let's review and then discuss and go, back and forth from there. I like a text as a way of saying, hey, I'm about to call you, or hey, check your email. But I do not like to try to text intimate things about a transaction back and forth. It just doesn't work. So email and phone are the best methods for me. I am on the phone a lot, so sometimes I can't like just jump off one call and get to another one, but at least we know the information is getting out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. And I mean, and I get it. In some cases, you, like you said, just send a quick text that I'm going to call, or are you available? Because let's face it, where we live, where we're located, a lot of times folks can't even have their phones with them at work. And
Yeah.
they can't answer if they are working during the day. So knowing the preferred method of communication, but also communicating that up front. So that's in that initial consultation, you know, kind of outline all those things. So you and each other have an expectation from the onset going forward, how to address each other's needs. So
That's great. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was say if you have any comments you're jumping on, please drop them in the comments.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just talking about things to consider when looking for a lender or a realtor. That was our topic today. And some of it was just prompted by a rant that I had yesterday, but we're not going to double back on that. What were you about to say?
I was going to talk about, and we could probably close out with this one, because I'm sure we can beat this one on both sides of the rug. New construction and having to utilize their lender, and even title company for that matter, to get those benefits, and in some cases some of the incentives or even closing assistance. But I know that you and I both have been in scenarios where that wasn't necessarily the better choice for the borrower or the buyer when buying new construction. And even going in, the misconception that you don't need a realtor. I mean, well, maybe you don't, but I just got it. Then this is what prompted me. I just got a text from one of my buyers who is buying new construction. You know, we are constantly in communication because he still has so many questions that he's not getting from the sales rep there. And so often, oh, my thing is recording what I'm saying. That's weird. Anyway, I better make sure I delete it so they don't get that as a text. But so often there's that misconception, but there's also the idea that, you know, they dangle the carrot that, hey, we'll finish your basement, or we'll give you 10,000 in closing assistance, but you don't see all the back end of how much that's going to cost you in the end. And in a lot of cases, they still end up bringing money to the table, even with those wonderful incentives that the builder dangles. And of course, like we always say, he who has the goal rules. But, you know, can you elaborate on that, as, you know, from your point of view, your perspective?
It's the shiny object. I mean, I myself have considered, you know, buying new construction here very recently, but I think it's really a catch-22. When you have some limited inventory, then obviously new construction sounds like you know, the great way to go. They do dangle a lot of incentives, but those incentives are tied to one thing, and that's you working with their preferred providers, which doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. But I feel like it becomes a problem because, as we talked about earlier, worried about your best interests being met. Now, obviously, they should want to get a loan or a deal closed, but how that happens or how you're handled is not really of concern because it's transactional for them, right? Mm-hmm. Because just like you were there, the next person wants the incentive, the next person's coming to get the home, the next person's coming to get the loan. So it's not about necessarily building a relationship. I found that it's been tough for communication for some borrowers throughout the process, and they have felt blindsided at the end when it was all said and done. And it was all for, you know, trying to keep these incentives or whatever. So, and I get it, right? It is something to consider. I mean, I'm a loan officer myself, and I was like, hey, if I buy this house over in this new subdivision, I'm not even going to do a loan. I'm going to take their money too. Right. Right. I'm in a different position, right? I know the questions to ask. I can vet that person, and obviously I know, you know, what it takes to actually get my own loan done, even if somebody else was the lender. So just want to be mindful, you know, about that. Everybody's situation is different. I definitely don't encourage giving away free money, but I talk about a lot of things. Everything's not going to be free. It might be a little painful to get you to the other side. So just, you know, buyer beware. That's part one. And then part two, in closing, the sales rep works for the builder. Okay. I don't care how they smile, tap dance, cartwheel, you know, tell you how cute your kids are. They do not represent you. So you should have pause right away if you go there and they tell you don't need a realtor, right? So there's a reason why we have representation for both sides, whether the other side is new construction or not. So I would be very problematic for me right away. That would be a red flag that if you're telling me I don't need representation, that actually I do. And like you said, your client has several questions that he's asking because he's not getting the information from the sales rep. Well, guess what? He's already got you under contract. Now he has to sell somebody else. Go shake some more hands. No, don't shake hands. Fist bumps, virtual kisses to the babies, tell you everything you need to get you on that contract because they do represent the sales rep. And the builder. And I'm not saying all of them are bad, but I just feel like if you really want to have an informed decision that you should have representation as well when you walk through that door, because
absolutely. Someone that is also knowledgeable about a transaction that can help you, even when you sit down through and going through that contract. And granted, a lot of it is, it is builder, it's on the side of the builder, but at least you have someone else that can interpret that or answer some questions or give clarity, because you said it. Thank you very much. The sales rep works for the builder. That's who pays his salary, whether you buy or not. When you buy, he gets bonuses. There's other things tied to that, but we won't go there.
all right.
So yeah, absolutely. Making sure that, yes, you have representation. And again, you don't have to worry about it because most often, you don't have to worry about it because the builder also will take care of your representative in terms of fees. So that's not a fee that you have to pay. So it's free to you to just know that I have another set of eyes to ensure that there are no surprises or that I didn't miss anything. And certainly someone available to you to ask questions and be there for you throughout that process. There's a huge lull when they're building, but to know that I do have someone to go to is very important. So anyway, that's all I have. Anybody else out here with questions for us this
Any
morning?
questions? All right.
Hey, Taj, it is so nice to see you. Thanks for joining us again.
Hey, Taj. Yep.
Memorial. Oh, yeah. You also have a Wednesday Q&A. Talk to us about that before we go. Talk about that so people know what time and when to join you.
Hey, so thanks for the plug. We're doing a Wednesday Ask Me Anything. Is real, relevant, and raw conversations about purchasing a home or mortgage and credit. So this particular Wednesday, the reason I appreciate you bringing it up is I'm actually going live with a credit restoration specialist that is certified, because I get a lot of questions about credit. And although I am well versed in some areas, there are a lot of things that seem to be outside of the scope, right? I want to stay in my lane. I don't want to infringe. So when I asked last Wednesday on the call, did people want to bring someone on? So we're going to have someone on Wednesday at 1:00 on my personal page. Tune in. So if you have questions about credit and you want to hear from a qualified professional, then please, jump on. There's so many misconceptions, but purchasing a home, that's the first start for us is credit. So people just have a lot of questions, especially right now with the way things are being reported during the pandemic. What should be there legally, not be there, what's affecting my score. So Wednesday at 1:00, join us for real, relevant, and raw conversations about credit and mortgages.
So schedule it, put it on your calendar. If it's not on my calendar, I will forget it. So make sure you guys, that's a good one. That is definitely a good one and a much needed topic and conversation to be had. So I'm going to make sure I put that, and you said it's at 1:00. I know we have virtual learning, but I'll make sure
okay.
My student is
so
set
it's 1:00 every Wednesday that we've been jumping on. But like I said, this week I really want as much participation as possible to get this information out there, right? Everybody's like, knowledge is power, but I'm like, yeah, I really don't know. Knowledge is not power unless it's actually applied or shared for someone to actually improve their situation.
Very good. That's awesome. So on that note, I'm going to wish you and everyone else, as we are going into this Memorial Weekend, a happy Memorial Weekend. Want to thank all of those who actually paid the ultimate sacrifice, of course, serving, and give them certainly acknowledgement, but then also to so many families that have lost loved ones during this whole COVID pandemic. So, happy Memorial Weekend. I hope everybody have a safe one. And I know there's some areas that are opening up at beaches. Guys, if you take advantage of that, please be mindful of social distancing. I like to say, help me, help you, you help me. Stay safe. You keep you safe and keep me safe, and I'll do the same. I'll reciprocate. Wear your mask if you're out in public. And if you are one of those that don't believe in wearing masks, then keep your distance. It's okay.
Keep your distance.
Text us, have fun.
Hey, Jason.
Be good. Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Have a great weekend as well. And everyone have a safe Memorial Day. And like I said, we definitely want to be mindful of those that paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Marquita, as always. I'll see you next Saturday, same bat time, same bat channel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you and have a blessed one. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See you.